I think two more. What's up, PH? We have Alessandra Pandez.
Hi
Hi.
everyone. Hi
Hi.
BJ. So my
Hello.
question goes for Miss Lea Salonga. So my first question is, since you worked with Miss Ava in this movie, how's the feeling working with her, and are you looking forward to share the stage with her in the future?
I'll answer the second question first. Yes, absolutely. Um, I think it would be fun, and it's nice being my age now and working with someone like her. Um, I mean, obviously, I don't have to teach her anything. I don't have to show her anything because she is carving a very unique path for herself. As for what it was like to work with her on the film, um, she is so natural and such an easy emotional presence on screen. And this girl works hard. She worked with a dialect coach to get that accent right and had a lot of questions about how to get the accent right. Um, so, there were a lot of details that she would put into her performance, and she paid attention to so many of them and really tried to infuse her performance with a lot of authenticity. Um, Even if it meant getting out of her comfort zone in order to really, truly inhabit this character. Um, so knowing that that is how she works, I think she will always be exciting to cast in whatever film or musical or play that she ends up working on next. So it was a lot of fun working her.
So my last question, Miss Lea, what do you want the people to get from Yellow Rose?
Um, what I'm hoping audiences will get from this is maybe a greater level of empathy for folks going through an experience that we can only imagine, that we have no actual experience in. Um, I'm hoping that folks see her for the person that she is and not just as an undocumented immigrant. That we are able to help people like her transcend that label, in order to fulfill their potential. And that is what Rose shows in the movie, that she is this emotional, headstrong, talented, intelligent human being. And ultimately, that's what anybody wants to be seen as a human being. Um, and not just with a label, which kind of is dehumanizing. And I think Diane was successful in really lifting that aspect of it, and for us to see the undocumented as people. So I think that's what I want folks to come away with a greater empathy for what a large part of the population is actually going through.
Thank you so much, Miss Lea, and congratulations
Thank
in
you.
advance for the
Thank you
film.
very much.
Thank you. I think Cecilia also has something to add.
Well, actually, as Leah was talking, I was thinking about this. What I'm hoping for the Filipino audience is to see the Filipino American experience in a different way. I think, there's just been, I'm second generation. My parents immigrated here. Jeremiah, Diane, and we all are born here. But we go back to the Philippines often. I know that for most of us, we don't feel quite Filipino when we go home because we grew up here. And then here in America, we don't feel quite American because obviously we don't look like what people say Americans look like. So what I'm hoping, always hoping for Yellow Rose was that when it got to the Philippines, it would depict at least some part of what our Filipino American experience is. Obviously, it's different for all of us, but just open that door between our storytelling in the Filipino American community and the Filipino community so that we can have more of that. synergy. So I'm hoping that kind of lands in the Philippines, and I think it will. The music, I think, alone, and then
Yeah. Also, yeah. Also to add, because Cecilia touched on a point where you know there is you have this preconceived notion of what an American is supposed to look like, and Filipinos tend to not fit into a box. I remember when I was a kid, if you were an American, for me, it was either you were white or you were black. That was what I knew. When in actual fact, being American means you are, there's a spectrum. You can be, descended from an immigrant family that came in from Ireland or Russia or Poland or Germany. You can be descended from, and this is from my experience of having worked on other shows, from a from a Japanese immigrant family, or from a Filipino immigrant family, or Chinese, or you'll look like the Vice President of the United States, where she is Black and South Asian. And so to look like an American is to basically be literally any color. It's the one thing that's interesting about, say, being a Filipino, where it's not necessarily what you look like that identifies you as a Filipino. It's how you sound. There's either a cadence with how you speak. It's a carriage with how you carry yourself. I don't know what it is, but it's like when I'm in the U.S. and it doesn't matter if it's mestiza or morena or what. It's like that person is descended from Filipinos. It's just something that you can quite easily identify. And yeah, so that's something I hope will be an experience for the United States as well, that you can say I'm an American and nobody will even flinch at you having been being a descendant from Filipino immigrants, and you say, yeah, I'm an American, and then full stop, that's it. No one will ask the question, no, where are you really from? That's a question I hope nobody ever has to ask anymore.
Yeah, can I just so with what Leah and Cecilia just said, I think so. In addition to being a co-producer on the film, I also led the PR and marketing during our run, and I think one of the biggest challenges that I faced was to convince people and audiences and even the media here in America of the value of talking about Filipinos and our experiences. I think we're still relatively unknown in terms of what our history is here in America. And so I think films like Yellow Rose, and I'm working on some great initiatives with Mixed Global, for example. We're trying to get a lot more Filipino stories in the mainstream media, a lot of the Filipino talent that they represent. I think that's critical moving forward. I think we have a responsibility to make sure to let people know, especially the masses who aren't as familiar with our culture and our immigration story. I think we have a responsibility to let them know, like, hey, we're Filipino, we're also American. Like, this is our story, and it's as valuable as anybody else's.
Thank you. We're learning so much just with this media conference, but more when we see the film. Now we are down to our last one. There are many friends from the media who want to ask more, but unfortunately we have limited time with Ms. Leia, the director and producers. So now to wrap up this Q&A, let's go back to Manay Ethel Ramos. Manay Ethel! Kindly ask your last question. Hello po. Tita Ethel, are you there? So while we are waiting for Manay Ethel, I would just like to remind everyone that the Philippine premiere of Yellow Rose is happening on January 28th. And we have Tita Ethel with us.
And
Hello
she's
po.
back. And she's back.
Leia,
Yes,
ang
tita.
itanong ko sa'yo, if you are not the lucky Lea Salonga that you are now, but belongs to the Filipinos na talagang desperate na mag-improve ang buhay. Would you consider
Would I consider what?
taking the risk of migrating to the US, and why?
If I wasn't who I was, would I migrate? I don't know. I actually don't know. That's not a question I ask myself. That if life hadn't happened for me in the way that it did, I honestly don't know. I was living quite a nice life. I had a college life. I had friends. I really don't know that I would have taken the immigrant route. I probably would have stayed, but obviously, my destiny had other plans, and so off I went. Yeah, I actually don't know. Hindi ko alam kung yun nga yung pipiliin kong landas if I wasn't who who I am now. I don't know. It's something that I probably would have to think long and hard about. My knee-jerk answer would be I don't think I would have, but it's really hard to say because life takes on twists and turns, and life could have happened in a very different way as well, and I might have had to make that decision. So I don't really know. I hope that's a satisfactory answer.
Thank you very much.
Tita.
How about the director? The director, given the choice, would you rather have been, have been born and stayed here in the Philippines rather than, in the US? I direct the.
Wow, that's a good question. It was a difficult upbringing. I grew up in a small Texas town, which is where the story came from, and I definitely felt like I didn't belong, and I had different forms of racism growing up, but ultimately I do love America. I mean, it's where I grew up, and that's kind of the whole point of the film, is that it's what I know, and yet I love the Philippines. And like I said, my brother lives there and has raised his children there, and actually did the opposite. He moved to the Philippines to work for Dick Gordon and married Ali Gordon, who's my sister-in-law. So he did the opposite. So we were raised with a lot of pride for being Filipino, and we were raised to never forget where we came from and feel very proud of it. And I think the film is a reflection of that. So I don't think so. I think I would stay here, but have more of a connection back home, which I do. I go back a lot.
My last question, Direk. Would you consider doing a film here, and who would you want to have for stars? Are you
I'm actually writing a film that's set in the Philippines as my next original script. So I will be working there, and I hope to hint, maybe work with Lea again. And I just want to say one thing about working with Lea in this movie. I think she's right. She has not just gotten better as an actor, but I think she has. You're very comfortable in yourself, and I think that came with age. That spotlight was on you at such a young age that you've taken it so gracefully as you've gone through the ups and downs of your career, and it shows. And you have a refinement about you. You have access points to very complicated emotions, and I think you are actually just as fine a film actress as you are a stage actress, and I hope you do.
Thank you.
As a director, I felt it was so easy to work with you, and you were able to access so many things very comfortably and very naturally. And there's an intelligence about you and a complexity about you that I would like to explore in other projects. So I kind of had we had a little romance, sistermance with me and Lea, and I know that I want to continue that. But yes, my next film is set in the Philippines, and I hope to have a mostly Filipino cast. It's set in World War II, and it's a big, ambitious project, so I'm hoping it'll be a joint production. And lastly, I want to, and I don't know how much I have publicly said this, but I want to really thank ABS-CBN. And you know, I talked a lot about how long it took for me to make the film, and only ABS-CBN was the one to step forward and give us the opportunity to make this movie. So I support what ABS is going through right now. And this particular movie would not have been made without their support and without their directive of wanting to put the Filipino film on a world stage. And, you know, the fact that we've been, you know, entered into the Academy Awards, even that alone, to be submitted by a major Hollywood studio, I hope they feel, you know, they put their money in the right place. But I'm forever grateful to them, and I support them wholeheartedly. And I would not have made this movie without them.
Direct Dayan, siguro naman